Top 10 True Crimes That Changed Laws. Newspaper headlines are full of heart-wrenching crimes on a daily basis. Murder, abuse, rape, kidnapping, arson, the list of heinous acts is endless and discouraging. Certain laws or procedures are often enacted thanks to a related incident, which helps to stop similar offense from happening again. For example, did you know that the nationwide 911 distress hotline was created in response to an actual crime? These horrific crimes manage to have a positive effect on society in the long term. In today's episode, we counted down our picks for the top 10 true crimes that changed laws. Our countdown includes Son of Sam, Adam Walsh, Genovese, and more. Number 10. Son of Sam. There has been various Son of Sam type laws introduced over the years, but the central goal is always the same: to prevent criminals from profiting from their crimes after conviction. This goes back to the fear that David Berkowitz, the notorious Son of Sam, would seek a book or movie deal while in prison to tell a story. Different states have drafted their version of this law, only for some of them to be struck down as unconstitutional. In New York State, victims and their families will receive notification if the criminal earns more than $10,000 from telling their story. It's a delicate balance between freedom of speech and profiting from tragedy. Number 9. Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. The two individuals in our next entry may not have known each other, but their place in history was vital towards the expansion of hate crime definition in the United States. The Matthew Shepard and James Byrd Jr. Hate Crimes Prevention Act was introduced and passed in the fall of 2009 after both men lost their lives as a result of prejudice and bigotry. The law not only made it easier for federal authorities to investigate cases of this nature, but the act also expanded wording to include crimes perpetrated due to one's gender or sexual identity. Although it cannot make up for the senseless loss of these two lives, it's arguably helped many people seek justice in the wake of such crimes. Number 8. Klaas. This controversial law helps punish repeat offenders. 12-year-old Klaas was taken from a home during a slumber party on October 1, 1993, and the tragedy had far-reaching effects on the California legislature. Her kidnapper, Richard Allen Davies, had a lengthy criminal record, though there were no open warrants when police initially stopped him after being notified of a suspicious car. This led to the 3 strikes laws in California, which states that defendants with one serious or violent felony conviction may have their sentences doubled for a second offense. The idea that felony criminals should automatically serve 25 years to life sentences when they commit multiple serious crimes was made easy by Davis' repugnant and unrepentant behavior during the trial. Furthermore, California Highway Patrol expanded access to their all points bulletins to local authorities in the aftermath of Paul's death. There are many critics of 3 strikes, including members of Klaas' own family. The stipulations were softened following a vote in 2013. Number 7. Rebecca Schaeffer. This law benefits famous people. Living life in the public eye isn't easy, especially when stalkers and obsessed fans come into play. This was unfortunately what caused the loss of a young and promising star in the form of My Sister Sam actress Rebecca Schaeffer. Robert John Bardo, an obsessed fan from Arizona, stalked the actress for years, attempting to crash the set of My Sister Sam, and even hiring a private investigator to find out where Schaeffer lived via the California Department of Motor Vehicles. Bardo eventually shot Schaeffer at her home, and her death prompted lawmakers to draft stricter anti-stalking legislation in its wake. The Driver's Privacy Protection Act was also made into law for this incident, making it more difficult for others to find personal information through the DMV. The state also created a special unit to protect celebrities from obsessed fans. The laws were eventually adopted in other states too. Number 6. Johnny Gosch. Before this incident, missing children weren't allowed to be reported for 24 to 72 hours. This cold case was the subject of a 2014 documentary titled Who Took Johnny, but it also changed how police respond to reports of missing children. 12-year-old Johnny Gosch was taken in the early morning hours of September 15, 1982, while delivering newspapers near his home in Des Moines, and he hasn't been seen since. Unfortunately, at the time, missing children were treated much like missing adults, with parents being forced to wait 24 hours to report the incident. In law, parents were required to wait 72 hours, but investigators found that abducted children are usually harmed or killed within the first 3 to 4 hours. The Gosch case captivated the nation, and Johnny's parents devoted themselves to getting the laws changed. The Johnny Gosch Bill, passed by Iowa legislature in 1984, mandated the law enforcement beginning investigating missing child cases immediately after they were reported. Number 5. Megan Kanka. This law allows you to steer clear of sex offenders. How well do you know your neighbor? This was inspiration behind Megan's law. It's a section of laws that requires that information about registered sex offenders must be available to the public. That's because of what happened in 1994 when 7-year-old Megan Kanka was abducted from a driveway by her neighbor Jay-Z Tim DeCarlos while riding her bike. Her body was recovered the next day in the nearby park. Tim and the DeCarlos' criminal history with little to no rehabilitation wasn't available to Kanka's family, and as a local assemblyman by the name of Paul Kramer was quoted saying, Megan Kanka could be alive today had a public registry been easily accessible by her family. Jesse Tim and the DeCarlos lived across the street from Kanka and had 2 prior convictions for sexual assault, though the Kankas did not know that. Megan's parents lobbied for a new law that would inform citizens about sex offenders in the area. They argued that having access to that information could have saved their daughter's life. While there are some controversies about its use and proof of its effectiveness is inconclusive, Megan's law has been in place since 1996. Number 4. Ernesto Miranda. Ever wonder where you have the right to remain silent originated? You have the right to remain silent. Anything you say can be used against you in the court of law. If you're a fan of crime shows or movies, you can probably recite this by now, but have you ever wondered where it came from? On March 2, 1963, an 18-year-old woman from Phoenix told the police she'd been abducted and raped in the desert. The police tracked down a car that matched her description and found a man who had a prior record of a peeping Tom, but nothing more. Ernesto Miranda was arrested in 1966 on suspicion of robbery, kidnapping, and rape. During the police interrogation, he confessed to committing the crimes, but that conviction was eventually overturned due to intimidation police interrogation methods. This was because Miranda wasn't informed of his right to remain silent so as not to incriminate himself, and was also refused an opportunity to consult with his counsel. Miranda rights were created to prevent this from happening in the future. By law, these rights must be clearly stated during any arrest in the United States. In other words, all arresting officers must inform you of your right to silence and an attorney before arrest. Number 3. Amber Hagerman. Not all child abductors strike in a public place. Most people are familiar with Amber Alerts, the infamous whenever the case of a child going missing is reported in our area. However, it's vitally important that we remember the alert's namesake, Amber Hagerman. For a wider range of emergency systems involving missing children, there's the Amber Alert, which is also named after a real person. A 9-year-old girl named Amber Hagerman was kidnapped and murdered in 1996, and so far the killer has never been caught. Enter the Amber Alert. This far-reaching system broadcasts the news of a missing child through television, highway notification signs, and text messages, providing as much pertinent information as possible about the child and the suspect. In this instance, Amber has 2 meanings. It's both a tribute to the little girl who lost her life and an acronym that stands for America's Missing Broadcast Emergency Response. The success of the Amber Alert system has led to similar programs such as the Silver Alert for Mission Senior Citizens who may suffer from dementia or other mental disorders, and the Blue Alert, which aids police officers missing in the line of duty. Number 2. Adam Walsh. This law helps missing children get found. The adoption and death of Adam Walsh is arguably the most well-known case in this list, thanks largely to the public presence of Walsh's father, John, as the host of America's Most Wanted. It was a crime that rocked the nation. On July 27, 1981, 6-year-old Adam Walsh was abducted from a Sears department store in Florida. Authorities recovered his severed head 16 days later. This event led to the creation of the Code Adam program, which helps children who are lost in stores or public places get reunited with their parents more quickly. If you hear Code Adam over a store's intercom, it means you should be on alert for a lost child or any suspicious activity. Code Adam was first used by Walmart in the 90s, and since 2003, the Code Adam Act requires all federal facilities to use it too. You may also recognize John Walsh, Adam's father, who helped to get the law passed. He is the host of America's Most Wanted and helps to bring the nation's most notorious criminals to justice. Number 1. Kitty Genovese. Before this incident, there was no such thing as 911. Dialing 911 seems like such an instinctive act. It's easy to forget that this wasn't always how emergencies were called to police. On March 13, 1964, a young woman named Kitty Genovese was stalked, stabbed, raped, and murdered by Winston Moseley while she was returning home after a late-night shift working at a bar. The New York Times reported that 37 people saw the incident. Some were reportedly too scared to call the police, or they may have tried to contact the police but never got through. To report an incident at that time, you'd have to dial 0 for the operator or the local police, and then the call would be transferred to Communications Bureau before getting transferred again to a specific person. Finally, after all that, a police officer could get dispatched to check out a potential crime. This delayed response would in part influence the establishment of the 911 emergency system we use today. That all changed after Genovese's murder. In 1967, a nationwide distress hotline replaced this method and 911 was born. The first 911 call was made in Haleville, Alabama on February 16, 1968.
Thank you for watching, and please do not forget to subscribe to our channel and hit the notification bell for more videos on crime stories, notorious outlaws, and historical scandals.